Morning and greetings from Kigali, Rwanda, where I live, teach, and practice as a professor and eye surgeon. This is me in 1979, just before my O-levels, and I want you to notice two things in this photo. Not that I am super thin, that's not the fault of Alliance. I entered and joined Alliance looking that thin. I want you to look at the badge on my tie. I was a school prefect and I later became a house captain for Watson House. It is at Alliance that I learned how to be a leader. And since then, I do not fear leadership. It is at Alliance that I learned to put up my hand when leaders are needed, confident that those around me would support me and would raise me up and help me to shine. Since then, I have never feared leadership positions. I was in Alliance from 1976 to 1981. So I'm one of the lucky ones who could attend both the 80s and now the 70s celebration. But I actually first came to Alliance in the 60s. My mom is student number 652. She completed her first year of studies but could not complete her second year because she was discovered to be pregnant with me. This young man on the left is a photographer who took her photographs for her to come from a small village in Nyeri and join Alliance. He fell madly in love with her and retained the photo. And at the end of the school year, when she went back to collect her photos, she quite literally akaingizwa box. Well, here they are, more than 50 years later, still doing life together. The day that I was admitted to Alliance was one of the proudest days of my life because I felt like there was unfinished business, especially for my mom. I worked really hard and succeeded in becoming the top student, both for O-levels and at A-levels. The second thing I wanted you to note on this slide is the knot on my tie. I don't know how to tie a tie. I never knew how to tie a tie for all the 6 years I was at Alliance. And my dad used to tie my tie and ask me to keep the knot for the whole term. But of course I had to wash my tie and I lent my tie to girls and it came back without a knot. I could manage to look this smart because girls around me always tied my tie. I was surrounded by kindness in Alliance, and I'd just like to tell you a few stories. The two Dorothys were Form 6s when I joined Alliance. One was a head girl and one was a head of the house. Every evening they gave me hot water to make what we called a brew in those days. Alliance was really cold, and as a small, skinny girl, I really needed that evening brew. Through them I learned that kindness could be unconditional. Rosemary Gitonga was the dining hall prefect. I was always late to the dining room, despite the fact that I lived just across at Watson House. And Rosemary would peep through the door and see me running in my dressing gown, and she always opened the door a crack to allow me to sneak in and not miss my breakfast. Through her, I learned that rules and love could coexist. Let me tell you about Mary Mwai. Mary Mwai was in Form 5 and I joined Form 1. She did cookery, and when they cooked, they made these amazing meals and they could invite 2 people to join them as they served the meal. For the 2 years that she was in Alliance in Form 5 and 6, Mary invited me every single Wednesday. And she will never know what a difference that amazing meal made for me during my life in Alliance. I'm really grateful, Mary. Amina Noordin and I went to the same school. It was a small madrasa type of school in the middle of Ngara. People from that school barely made it to high school. And Amina, who was also our head girl, was the first one to make it to a national school. And when she made it to Alliance, she made me believe that I could make it to Alliance. Nyawera was my house mother, and I was Lisa Malecha's house mother. Surprisingly, the 3 of us became doctors. At Alliance, I wanted to be a lawyer, then I wanted to be a teacher, then I wanted to be an architect, then I wanted to be an engineer. On the day that we had to apply to University of Nairobi, I applied to be a chemical engineer. I was super surprised when I found myself top of the list to join medical school. Only then did I discover that Auntie and Mrs. Karanja had changed my form and applied for medical school for me because they thought that is a career that was appropriate for me. I am so grateful for their interference and their decision making because I cannot imagine not being a doctor. Our teachers in Alliance were special and they molded us to become the women that we are today. I'll end by thanking my class. Talking about my class of 76 to 81. These are the girls I grew up with, I learned with, and who I made everlasting friendships with. They're the girls who taught me what having a period meant and how to cope with that. They're the girls we sneaked with into the piano rooms. They're the girls who we read our letters from across with. They're the girls I did detention with. And here they are, visiting me in Rwanda, and together we went to visit one of our teachers, our art teacher, Mrs. Sam, now Mrs. Faith Shaw. It is having these girls in my life that has made me who I am today, and I can honestly say that I have no regrets with being a girl from Alliance, and it is something that I am extremely proud of. Thank you.